Once upon a time, in a small village in Nigeria, there lived a young girl named Amara. Amara was 12 years old, and everyone in the village knew her for her kindness. She lived with her father, Papa Chike, who was a strong and wise man. He was a farmer, and his fields were full of maize, yams, and cassava. Amara helped him on the farm every day, but deep down, she wished for more. One day, as Amara was returning from the river where she fetched water, she saw a group of children gathered around the village storyteller, Baba Ola. He was telling stories about kings, queens, and magical creatures. Amara sat down, excited to hear the story, and then, the brave prince slayed the giant crocodile and saved the village. Baba Ola said, making the children cheer. Amara's eyes sparkled with excitement. She loved stories of adventure and bravery, and she often dreamed of becoming a hero just like the ones in Baba Ola's tales. Later that evening, as Amara sat with her father by the fire, she asked, "Papa, do you think girls can be brave heroes too?" Papa Chike smiled warmly at his daughter. "Of course, my dear Amara. Being brave is not just for boys or girls, it's for anyone who has courage in their heart." Amara was happy to hear that, but she didn't know just how soon she would need that courage. One night, while Amara was sleeping, something strange happened. Her father left the house quietly. Amara woke up and noticed that Papa Chike was not in his usual spot. She tiptoed to the window and saw him walking toward the forest with a bag slung over his shoulder. Curious and worried, Amara decided to follow him. She grabbed her shawl and snuck out of the house, making sure to stay far enough behind so her father wouldn't notice her. Papa Chike walked deep into the forest, to a place Amara had never seen before. There, in the middle of the clearing, was an old hut, covered in moss and vines. Amara hid behind a tree, her heart racing. What was her father doing here? Just then, the door of the hut creaked open, and an old woman stepped out. She had a long, flowing robe and carried a walking stick carved with strange symbols. Amara gasped quietly. This was no ordinary woman, this was Mama Needy, the village healer and the keeper of secrets. Everyone said she had powers. Amara watched as her father handed the bag to Mama Needy. They exchanged a few words that Amara couldn't hear. Then, something amazing happened. Mama Needy raised her walking stick, and with a wave of her hand, a bright light shot out from the stick and into the sky. Amara's eyes widened in shock. What was going on? Why was her father meeting with the powerful healer in the middle of the night? Before she could figure it out, her father turned to leave. Amara quickly ducked behind the tree, her mind spinning with questions. What had Papa Chike done? Why did he need magic? She had to know. Amara hurried back to the house, her heart pounding. She barely made it inside before Papa Chike returned. Quickly, she slipped into her bed and pretended to sleep, but her mind was racing with questions. What was in the bag? Why had her father needed Mama Needy's help? The next morning, Amara woke up early, determined to find answers. As she helped Papa Chike with their usual chores, she watched him closely. He seemed normal, laughing and talking as he always did, but Amara knew something strange was happening. After breakfast, Amara decided to visit her best friend, Kemi. She couldn't keep the secret to herself any longer. As they sat under the big baobab tree near Kemi's house, Amara told her everything she had seen. Kemi's eyes widened in surprise. "Your father met Mama Needy in the forest? That's really strange. Do you think he asked for magic?" "I don't know," Amara replied, shaking her head. "But it has to be something important. Papa doesn't believe in using magic for no reason." Kemi thought for a moment. "Maybe we should go back to the forest tonight and see if anything happens again." Amara hesitated. The idea of sneaking out again made her nervous, but she knew she had to find out the truth. "Okay," she finally agreed. "We'll go tonight." As the sun set and the village grew quiet, Amara and Kemi sneaked out of their homes and made their way to the forest. The trees loomed tall around them, and the only sound was the crunch of leaves under their feet. Amara's heart raced as they approached the clearing where she had seen her father the night before. They crouched behind some bushes and waited. The moonlight filtered through the trees, casting long shadows across the ground. Time seemed to crawl by, and just as Amara began to think nothing would happen, she heard footsteps. It was Popachike again, and this time, he wasn't alone. Another man walked beside him, someone Amara didn't recognize. The two men approached Momenidi's hut, and once again, the healer came out to meet them. Amara and Kemi watched closely as Momenidi waved her hand, and a soft glow appeared around her. The old healer whispered something to Popachike, and he nodded, looking serious. Then, Momenidi handed the other man a small wooden box. The man opened it, and inside was a glowing stone, shimmering like the stars. Amara gasped quietly. She had never seen anything like it before. What is that? Kemi whispered, her eyes wide with amazement. I don't know, Amara whispered back. But it must be important. Just as the man closed the box and slipped it into his bag, a twig snapped under Kemi's foot. Both girls froze in fear. Popachike and the other man turned toward the bushes where Amara and Kemi were hiding. What was that? The man asked, his voice sharp. Amara's heart pounded in her chest. She held her breath, hoping they wouldn't be discovered. Would her father realize she had been spying on him? What would happen if he found out? Popachike stepped closer to the bushes, his sharp eyes scanning the area. Amara could feel her heart beating faster than ever before. She and Kemi crouched lower, hardly daring to breathe. It's probably just an animal, the other man said, sounding impatient. Let's go. We have what we need. Popachike hesitated for a moment, then turned away and nodded. You're right. We must leave before anyone notices. Amara let out a tiny sigh of relief as they began walking away. The two men and Momenidi disappeared into the forest, leaving the clearing silent once more. We need to follow them. Kemi whispered excitedly. Amara shook her head, still trying to calm down. No, it's too dangerous. We need to go back before they find out we're here. Kemi wanted to argue, but she could see that Amara was scared. Okay, let's go. The two girls carefully made their way out of the forest, constantly looking over their shoulders to make sure they weren't being followed. When they finally reached the edge of the village, Amara turned to Kemi and whispered, We can't tell anyone about this, not yet. I need to figure out what my father is doing. Kemi nodded. But you need to be careful, Amara. This is serious. What if your father is in some kind of trouble? Amara bit her lip. She had been thinking the same thing. Her father was a good man, but why was he meeting with strange men in the forest and dealing with magic stones? It didn't make sense. The next day, Amara decided to watch her father more closely. She didn't want to believe he was involved in something bad, but the strange events of the past 2 nights made her worried. After dinner, as the sun began to set, Amara noticed her father acting a little differently. He seemed quiet, lost in thought. Amara pretended not to notice, but inside, she was more curious than ever. Later that night, after Popachike went to bed, Amara snuck into his room. She felt a little guilty for spying on him, but she needed to know the truth. She quietly opened his old wooden chest, the one he always kept locked inside. Among the usual tools and clothes, Amara saw something that made her heart stop, a small wooden box, just like the one Momenidi had given the strange man in the forest. Carefully, Amara lifted it out and opened it. Inside, glowing softly, was the same magical stone. What is this? She whispered to herself, staring at the shimmering light. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. She quickly closed the box and spun around to see Popachike standing in the doorway, his face serious. Amara, he said quietly, what are you doing? Amara's hands shook as she held the box. Papa, what is this? What are you doing with magic? Why are you meeting with strange people in the forest? Papa Chike sighed and walked over to her, taking the box gently from her hands. He sat down on the edge of the bed and looked at her with sad eyes. Amara, there is something I need to tell you, but it's not easy. Amara's heart sank. She had never seen her father look so worried before. What is it, Papa? He took a deep breath. I am doing this to protect you, my dear. There are people who want to harm our village, powerful people. The stone you saw, it has the power to stop them, but it's dangerous. Amara's eyes widened. Dangerous? How? The magic inside it is very old, and if it falls into the wrong hands, it could destroy everything, Papa Chike explained. I've been working with Mama Needy and some trusted people to keep it safe, but now I fear those men we met last night may not be as trustworthy as I thought. Amara felt a chill run down her spine. What do we do, Papa? How can we stop them? Papa Chike looked out the window, his face filled with worry. We need to act fast. They will come for the stone soon, and when they do, we must be ready. Amara's heart raced. She had always dreamed of being part of an adventure, but now it felt more dangerous than she had imagined. The next few days passed quickly, with Papa Chike preparing for what he called the final moment. He didn't tell Amara much, but she could feel the tension in the air. Everyone in the village seemed normal, going about their daily lives, unaware of the threat looming over them. One evening, just as the sun began to set, Papa Chike called Amara to his side. Amara, it's time, he said, his voice calm but serious. What do you need me to do, Papa? Amara asked, trying to be brave. I need you to go to Mama Needy's hut. She will give you something to protect the stone. The men are coming tonight, and we have to be ready. Amara nodded and ran as fast as she could through the village toward the forest. When she arrived at Mama Needy's hut, the old healer was waiting for her. I knew you would come, Amara, Mama Needy said, handing her a small leather pouch. This will hide the stone's magic from those who seek it. But remember, child, it's not the stone's power that will save us, it's your courage. Amara took the pouch and thanked Mama Needy before hurrying back home. When she reached her house, she found her father waiting outside with a serious look on his face. They here, he whispered. Suddenly, dark figures appeared at the edge of the village. The strange men from the forest had returned, and they were not alone. Behind them, a tall figure with a black cloak and piercing eyes stepped forward. His voice boomed through the night. Chike. Hand over the stone, and no one will get hurt. Papa Chike stood tall, holding the small wooden box in his hands. You will never have this stone, Uche. Its power is not meant for evil. Uche laughed, a cold, chilling sound. You are a fool to think you can protect it. Step aside, or I will take it by force. Amara, hiding behind the door, watched in fear. She knew this was the moment. Her father couldn't face them alone. Clutching the leather pouch tightly, she stepped out of the house and stood beside him. Papa, we'll do this together, she said, her voice trembling but determined. Papa Chike looked at his daughter with pride. I always knew you were brave, Amara. With a swift movement, Papa Chike threw the box to the ground. The stone tumbled out, its bright glow lighting up the night. The men moved forward, eager to grab it, but Amara acted quickly. She threw the leather pouch over the stone, and instantly, the glow vanished. Uche's face twisted in anger. What have you done, girl? Amara held her ground. This stone belongs to the people, not to you. You'll never get it. Just then, Mama Needy appeared at the edge of the forest, her walking stick raised high. Be gone, Uche. You have no power here. A powerful wind swept through the village, and Uche and his men were pushed back by an invisible force. They tried to fight it, but Mama Nidi's magic was too strong. With a final scream of frustration, Uche and his men disappeared into the night, never to be seen again. The village was safe. Papa Chike hugged Amara tightly. "You were brave, my daughter. You saved us all." Amara smiled, feeling proud but also relieved. "We did it together, Papa." As the villagers gathered around, celebrating their victory, Mama Nidi approached Amara and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You have the heart of a hero, young one. The village will tell your story for generations." Amara beamed with happiness. She had always wanted to be a hero, and now, she had done something even more important. She had protected her family and her village from harm. From that day on, Amara was known as the girl who saved the stone, and her courage became the stuff of legend. But to her, she was just Amara, the girl who loved her father and believed that anyone could be brave.